It started quite late. I was 13 and I was bribed by my mom to take a dance class because I was kind of quite a tomboy. So I was like, there's no way I'm getting in pink. There's just no way. But the minute I started my first dance class, it was so incredibly freeing. I didn't speak till I was 3. I always kind of used the bare minimum of using words to express myself. And I gravitated towards math and puzzles, nonverbal activities. And so dance just hit me quite hard in a way that nothing else has. And it is such a freeing, liberating experience every time I get to dance and be with the music. It just feels very authentic and raw and like really who I am. The best part about physics is like just the anomalies and the phenomena that happen, and there's so many like mysteries that we just don't understand. It's like mind-boggling. It's like magic, and I loved trying to figure it out. And as a kid, I loved puzzles, and I loved crossing things out. And like with physics, it's a lot of either experimentally putting things together and building, your experimental setup, or like equations. You're trying to fit things together, and then you're like crossing things out on other sides of the equation. It was just and I think the mentality towards physics is quite similar for dance. Like I think that, one needs to be very creative and imaginative when dealing with physics experiments. You need to think, you get problems and you have to solve it, or you have to kind of visualize these weird, bizarre concepts in a different way. And it's very, but repetition helps as well, going through it. But yeah, I loved it. To become a good dancer, you have to be experimental. You have to test different philosophies of where to put your weight and where to put your port de bras, and people tell you 100 different techniques. So you just kind of have to test it and try it out. And so it made me much more open when doing experiments to say, yeah, let's just test it and let's try it and let's go for it. So yeah, I don't know if it was the physics lab that helped that mentality in the dance world, or the dance helped that in the physics. It gets a bit blurry that way. But also, or when I did this astronauts program, I found a lot of the dance, like what I learned from dance was very useful. More than being in a physics lab, was like we got no notice and then we were thrown into a helicopter being like, so you're gonna drive this now? And you're just like, and then you open another door and you have to memorize numbers backwards while you're stepping up and down, and you open another door and you have to like take your own blood. It was just, but you were given no warning, and just like no warning at all, no first try, just your one try is going to be televised on national television. Like that was it. But I think that, being on a stage where dancers are just used to costumes going wrong and light bulbs bursting from the top, and, someone being injured and coping with it on the spot. But keeping a smile and just keeping it calm. And so that really helped me in the astronauts program show with BBC, because they would just throw you anything and you're like, okay, well, let's go. Well, I've been in a number of ballet companies to understand the environment that people grow up in. And I do realize that a lot of the time, there's this belief that if you're doing dance and you've committed to dance, you better just commit to dance, and that it's bad if you have a secondary passion or activity. The belief is that you should be thinking about dance 24/7. And I do find sometimes that's detrimental. I think also not having it all the time means that your drive and your passion and your motivation to be able to do it is a lot stronger. On both sides, like I've quit dance to just pursue physics, And the results of that was that my grades dropped, my overall well-being dropped. Like, I wasn't taking care of myself as well, because I was like, it doesn't matter. Whereas if I had a class the next day or in rehearsals and training, like, you take really good care of yourself. And like, not full on depressed, but just not happy. I was just not happy. And I've also done the other, where I've just done dance and not had the other side of physics. And I end up not liking being in the studio. It becomes so obsessive, like, and so then I would just perform worse, because I get more stressed and nothing's working and I'm really frustrated. Whereas when I had both for dance, like, then I'd have to think about the problem that I was having the next day or the exam. And I was just there. I'm like, I've got this 1 hour and a half to enjoy the music. Like, I'd better enjoy this. And I'd progress so much faster than if I was like, turn out. Like, I just couldn't move at the end of the day. Like, I really genuinely think I would not have been accepted to Harvard without the dance. I wouldn't have gone further with the physics, because I would have been sick of just doing physics if I didn't have dance. And I think I wouldn't have gotten into ballet companies if I didn't have the physics, because I wouldn't have had that, like, commitment and drive and love for being in the studio. And yeah, so in a weird way, like, I was only able to, I don't know, achieve the things I've done because they're both at the same time. Like, if I was only doing one independently, I don't think it would have worked out. I would say for anyone, is like putting in tons of work and not knowing if it's going to work out, right? I remember, like, in college, just putting in hours and hours, for the physics and dance, not going to the parties, being on the treadmill, like, reading my quantum physics book at 2 a.m., like, on a Saturday night. Like, if my friends had asked me a question, they knew where to find me. I'd be, like, downstairs in the dungeon gym of the, Elliott House, the dorm, doing this, or in the splits. And it was a time when I was like, man, I don't know, like, what if the dance doesn't work out and I'm not putting in all this time into physics I should, or socializing, or, like, just what if? And so that was another trick I had to say, be like, no, don't think about it in a negative way. Like, you just want, when you're older and looking back, you can say with assurance that you gave everything you had. And if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. But at least you won't have that regret of saying, oh, if only I had got to that one other audition, like, would it have worked? So, yeah, it's just constantly analyzing what's kind of stopping me, and then figuring out a way to change the mental approach to it in order to make it less, like, heavy. Every day I pretty much doubt myself. And it's been a challenge since the beginning, right? I think one becomes very insecure with ballet. There's, like, this ideal thing that just very rare. You're just born that way. And so that was very difficult. And from the minute I started, it was pretty clear that I would not become a professional dancer. Like, there was no point, and I should just stay in the back of the room. Also, I started physics late, and people said, I'm female, and blah, 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 and started way too late. So that's just not going to happen. And then somehow I got into Harvard, and I was studying physics, and they're like, well, no one's ever done the university. Like, you can't do university and dance. And I got into a company, and they're like, well, you can't then do a PhD. Like, do my PhD, like this. And then they're like, man, we knew this whole time you could do it, right? But so not only would I be doubting myself daily, or just, like, not good enough, and this, but also, the outside world is telling me not good enough. But there were throughout it, I did get stronger, and, I would recognize, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but I would kind of like trick my brain so that I could keep on going. So I would say, okay, Merritt, just push really hard. Like, I was in a ballet company and getting a lot of it was really tough. It was my first ballet company. And I was like, Merritt, just push for another month, 3 months. Every day, push for, go 500%. And if you don't improve at the end of 3 months, like nothing changes, then you're allowed to quit. That's what I would tell myself. And, but obviously if I've been pushing every day, like my feet get better, my extensions get better, like everything got better, improved, and actually, my experiences in that company changed a lot. So, but stress is, lack of confidence, always tough. I got auditions. The pressure would be, I'm not great under pressure. So I'd have to kind of trick my brain to alleviate that pressure and be like, okay, this audition is just preparation for the next audition. And also I would tell myself, Merritt, you have to make a fool of yourself 3 times. That's it. That's your main goal. And so it would just become so liberating and free, instead of being like, Merritt, you have to be perfect and you have to hit your pirouettes and you have to that I just couldn't move if I was telling myself that. Under that pressure, as if I was like, right, you have to mess up, like that's just it. And then I would dance really free, and and so I've been lucky enough to be in a number of companies, but and going in and out has been very difficult. In and out of shape, like ballet shape, which is a whole other level. I would say, I study a lot for physics. I do a lot of exercises for dance, but I would say a lot of my time has been spent towards like the mental side of it. Like, I've read a lot of sports therapy books, and I would listen to books about public speaking before an audition, because it just gave you tricks about how to move the body in a way that was more confident and mature. And it just gave me something else to think about, rather than, oh my God, I'm like number 243 in this room of like thousands of dancers who have all trained their whole lives in ballet schools, and I've never been in a ballet school. But I would do a lot of mental training. Like, I've read I've read the Tony Robbins books, and I've read the goal-making books and the inspirational books and the motivational ones, and I think that is such a huge part of it. Like, it's such a huge muscle and such a great kind of like secret weapon, I guess, in the sense that if you have control of your mental state, it just opens the door to your potential much more. Instead of my end goal being dance achievement or like that, my end goal has been, I want to be a stronger person in general. So everything that I did towards dance was to make me a stronger person. So it would alleviate that stress and that panic that if things weren't going well with dance, like, it wasn't the end of the world, because I just knew that was part of it, and end goal, stronger person. I would say I've been so fortunate about having really incredible dance mentors throughout my life, who really took me under their wing and not only trained me in dance, but also, they gave me lessons like, Merritt, everyone's going to have great technique and perfect feet and perfect bodies because they've been in ballet schools their whole lives. The only thing that's going to make you strong and that you've got is being unique and different and being yourself. Like, that's all you've got. And so might as well really strengthen that, because, everyone's got everything else. I mean, it's hard to pick a specific thing because it's kind of flavor of the month. But I love watching interviews of people, and I love hearing stories and reading autobiographies and biographies of people. Like when I would do my lab work or when I'm stretching, I'll listen to a book on tape, and it's often a biography about someone, and it's just very interesting to hear about people's different journeys and how they got through it. I think there's so much to learn from people's wisdom that have gone through it. And I'm like, yeah, if there's like a quick way for me to learn before I have to go through everything, like that'd be great. And yeah, I do pick up on a lot of I love listening to other people's advice and wisdom. And I won't take it all, that's for sure. Like, people like to give their opinion, and often I'll be like, mm-hmm, and then not do it. I would say like write it all out. I mean, that's what I did when I was quite young. Is I wrote down like I want to be a professional ballet dancer. I'm like, how am I going to do this? But writing down what the dream is, writing down why it's important to them, writing down how, like really from the top down, of like how would it be possible, and maybe the first step is just meeting someone. And people in every industry, I think, well, in general, are very open to sit down with someone or have a quick conversation and say, if someone asks them, like, how do you even start? Like, what's the first step? And then you get to the first step, and once you're at the first step, you kind of figure out what the second step is, and kind of inch by inch. Like, I'm a big believer in, every hour counts. It all pays back in the end, often in ways that you don't think, but it always works out. Like, it always pays off in the end. Every kind of discussion and step forward, I think a lot of dancers exiting the stage have a lot of insecurities about what their potential is and what they're capable of. People get worried that they haven't written or read for a while, but it's a muscle. It's a muscle, and they're so used to training muscle. Like, they'd be the easiest person to train in anything. Right? They do the TheraBands with one toe at a time. Like, they really train muscles, and the brain and any sorts of career path is literally just training the brain to think or do a certain thing that perhaps they're not used to in the beginning, but yeah, it's very easy to learn. And so any dancer coming out of the workforce is an incredible, got incredible work ethic, got incredible strength, just incredible persistence, and is inspired and just wants to learn and loves to be there and doesn't care about the hours, because man, we'd be nuts. I do believe the universe kind of tells me where to go. I put in the work, and then sometimes it tells me to focus on physics or to focus on dance, kind of depending on what doors open. It was a huge risk to do my PhD early, and it'd never been done before. And a lot of people say age and just body, keeping up the physique is really difficult. And it's been difficult. If I'm meant to be in a company, I'll be in a company. It's just been a state that I've always been in. I've never really known where I'm going or what I'm doing. But I have known that I'll put in the work and try for things, and the right thing will happen if it's meant to happen. Yeah.